It's still the same, Prabhuji. So sorry, we'll just carry on. And if it gets blurred, then I'll just switch off my camera and then just to stay the class. Okay, so Haribol to all of you. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to do the discussion today on serve Srimad Bhagavatam today. I pay my obeisances and my prayers and my to all of you, to my Guruji and to all my Shiksha Gurus who have helped me prepare a little bit about the class today, and from his teachings I have been able to get something to be able to discuss today. So my prayers to all the Gurus and to all of you. If there are any problems or any corrections, do correct me. So we are doing Canto 1, Chapter 18, verse 23 and 24 today. But before that, let's very quickly do the prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritam Naran Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasim Tato Jayamudirayet Tapta Nashtaprayashu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Ruttamashlake Bhakti Bhavati Nashtaki. So shall I read the verse, Prabhuji, or would you? Okay, so let me just bring it up on my mobile. Okay, so it says, so verses 24 and 25, Ekada Dhanur Udyamya Vicharan Mrigayam Vane Mrigan Anugata Shri Shantaha Shudita Trishto Prisham Jalashayam Achakshanaha Praviveshatam Ashramam Dadarshamunim Ashinam Shantam Milita Lochanam. The translation by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Once upon a time, Maharaj Parikshit, while engaging in hunting in the forest with bow and arrows, became extremely fatigued, hungry and thirsty while following the stags. While searching for a reservoir of water, he entered the hermitage of the well-known Shamika Rishi and saw the sage sitting silently with closed eyes. Purport: the Supreme Lord is so kind to his pure devotees that in proper time he calls such devotees up to him and thus creates an auspicious circumstance for the devotee. Maharaj Parikshit was a pure devotee of the Lord, and there was no reason for him to become extremely fatigued, hungry and thirsty, because a devotee of the Lord never becomes perturbed by such bodily demands. But by the desire of the Lord, even such a devotee can become apparently fatigued and thirsty just to create a situation favorable for his renunciation of worldly activities. One has to give up all attachment for worldly relations before one is able to go back to Godhead, and thus, when a devotee is too much absorbed in worldly affairs, the Lord creates a situation to cause indifference. The Supreme Lord never forgets his pure devotee, even though he may be engaged in so-called worldly affairs. Sometimes he creates an awkward situation, and the devotee becomes obliged to renounce all worldly affairs. The devotee can understand by the signal of the Lord, but others take it to be unfavorable and frustrating. Maharaj Parikshit was to become the medium for the revelation of the Srimad Bhagavatam by Lord Sri Krishna, as his grandfather Arjuna was the medium for the Bhagavad Gita. Had Arjuna not been taken up with an illusion of family affection by the will of the Lord, the Bhagavad Gita would not have been spoken by the Lord himself for the good of all concerned. Similarly, had Maharaj Parikshit not been fatigued, hungry, and thirsty at this time, Srimad Bhagavatam would not have been spoken by Srila Sukadev Goswami, the prime authority of Srimad Bhagavatam. So, This is a prelude to the circumstances under which Srimad Bhagavatam was spoken for the benefit of all concerned. The prelude therefore begins with the words, once upon a time. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Om Ajnana-Dasya Jnana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namah. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deva Gauravani Pracharine Nivishesha Shinivadi Pashata Deshatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasati Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. So thank you very much. So with all your blessings and mercies and with the blessings of my gurus, I start with discussing this. So the verse starts with once upon a time. It starts with the story of Maharaj Parikshit and where it all began. So just a quick recap of what has been happening so far. So the chapter started with the rishis of Naimisharanya requesting Sutta Goswami to talk to them more about Parikshit Maharaj and talk to them about the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And we've been hearing about the various devotees of the Lord and who are the true devotees. We've heard a bit about Parikshit Maharaj. We've heard about the various some of the devotees of the Lord, the nature of a true devotee, and we have seen how a true devotee is a Paramahamsa, self-controlled, and does everything for the Lord and has Lord as the center of his life. And we've also seen how the purpose and the verses also talk about Mother Ganges being again another of the pure devotees who was brought into the material world by when Vamandev, the Lord in his incarnation as Vamandev, pierced a portion of the causal ocean and a droplet of water tricked down into the material universe. And that through the heavenly planets, it came down to the earthly planets and Earth and turned into Mother Ganges. So now we have come to where the sages and saints, they want to know about Parikshit Maharaj more. And so we start with how this whole Bhagavatam started and why this was told. So we have previously, we've heard about the birth of Parikshit Maharaj and the difficulties he had to go through when he was attacked, when he was in his mother's womb with a Brahmastra by Ashwatthama, and you know how the Lord saved him. So he and then we've seen Maharaj Parikshit as the ideal king, as a great devotee, but also an ideal king who looks after his subjects in such a good way, so much so that he was able to drive away Kali from his kingdom, and we also see how Maharaj Parikshit was very, very equal to all his subjects and took care of both the people as well as the animals in his kingdom. And we've heard about the conversation between Mother Earth personified as a cow and religiosity or dharma personified as a bull. So we've heard a bit about Maharaj Parikshit, but this verse we start talking about how, because of Maharaj Parikshit, the rest of us, the people of Kali Yuga, have been blessed with the knowledge of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is none other than another incarnation of the Lord in written form. So that was a quick recap of what we have seen so far. Now, in this verse, there are quite a few ideas that have been touched upon, and obviously initially about Maharaj Parikshit, and we start with once upon a time. Maharaj Parikshit was hunting, and he felt after the whole day of hunting stags, deers, he felt very tired and very fatigued, and he went to where he saw the hermitage of Shamik Rishi, and he went over there, and he saw the saint over there in meditation. Obviously, he didn't realize that, and he was very, very upset that he wasn't greeted properly. And you know, that it came about to how before leaving he put a dead snake on the shoulders, across the shoulders of the great sage Shamik Rishi, and hearing about that, how the son Shringi, a young boy, got extremely angry and cursed Maharaj Parikshit to die within 7 days. And Maharaj Parikshit took this opportunity not as a curse, but as the will of God, and spent the last 7 days of his life listening about Srimad Bhagavatam and on Srimad Bhagavatam and about the glories of the Lord and his devotees from Suta Goswami. And that is how we have come to know about Srimad Bhagavatam. So that is the verse, but in the purport, there are quite a few things that have been touched upon. And the first thing is that people might ask from the verse that, you know, Maharaj Parikshit was a great devotee. So why was he actually, why did he go for hunting? Why was he killing animals? And you would, if I can throw this question out to all of you, why would Maharaj Parikshit kill animals when he was such a great devotee?
Kshatriyas, Mataji, are trained to fight. They are supposed to be trained to fight in a war field. So it's a sort of practice, and also to hunt the animals which are carnivorous, so that the population is under check. I mean, that's
Right.
what. Yes.
That's right. Thank you, Prabhuji. Perfect. So yes, Kshatriyas were trained. They needed to be trained, and also to keep the balance on Mother Earth, and ensure that the various sages who are in the forest, they were not disturbed by animals, but primarily to train themselves, because they're, as Kshatriyas, they needed to look after their subjects, and should a war come, they would have to do the war and use their bow and arrow. So the first point that is mentioned, or that is drawn attention to, is that Maharaj Parikshit, being a great devotee, was hunting not for the sake of hunting as a pastime, but because he wanted to do his duty as a Kshatriya, as a king, which is of protecting his subjects well. He wanted to do that properly, and he wanted to train himself up properly as one who is able to look after his subjects. So that's the first point that is given attention to in this verse, when it talks about the Maharaj Parikshit going for hunting. And then we talk about the pure devotees. Now, so far, we know Maharaj Parikshit is a pure devotee, and we've heard, the other day we were talking about the Paramahamsas being pure devotees. So who are the pure devotees? Again, the attention is drawn towards Maharaj Parikshit right at the beginning, that he is a good devotee. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that, yes, there are so many examples of pure devotees, so many definitions of pure devotees. But who is a pure devotee? A pure devotee is someone who says that Krishna sansar karo chari anachar jivadaya Krishna nam sarvadhamasar, or let go of material attachment. A pure devotee is someone who lets go of material attachment and performs his duties as a service to Krishna. So Krishna has created the Varnashram system, and one of the main ashrams in the Varnashram system is the Grihastha ashram, and Varna, whichever Varna you're in, you're given or you're prescribed or you're supposed to do your own work. Krishna never advises us to leave everything and become a sannyasi and go to the Himalayas without sannyas danda. No, he never advises us. And that is the main reason he asked Arjun to perform his duty. So Krishna always advises us to do our duty. So if Maharaj Parikshit was a Kshatriya, he needed to do his duty as a Kshatriya king and also as a Grihastha, because he also had his family. But what did he do? The pure devotees, they let go of the material attachment and they put Krishna in the center. So their sansar, or their world or their universe, becomes Krishna's sansar, Krishna's universe, because everything they do, they dedicate it to Krishna and takes that as a prasad of Krishna. And they are compassionate to all others, all other fallen souls. And so they continuously sing the holy names of the Lord loudly, whether it's, or performing austerities or pujas in the earlier ages, or doing Sankirtan movement nowadays in Kali Yuga, as is the Yuga Dharma. So we see Parikshit Maharaj is such a great devotee. And so we ask, the purport starts with saying that the Supreme Lord is very, very kind. And because he's very kind, he calls his pure devotees to him in time, and creates an auspicious circumstance for the devotee to return to Godhead. So Krishna creates situations so that the devotees quickly go back to him. In this age of Kali, Prabhupada says in his preface to the Srimad Bhagavatam, he says that all you require, this is the age of Kalaha, of Kali, of quarrel. All you really require is a tiny bit of a pinprick, Prabhupada says in his preface, and with that tiny pinprick, a huge battle or a quarrel can start. You don't need a lot to start a quarrel in this age. And also Vyasdeva says in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.2 that the souls, the souls are such that they get agitated very, very soon, and because they get agitated soon, they uproot the threefold miseries, and all the threefold miseries immediately starts acting, and it's so very easy to start that in this age of Kali. And so, we think that Parikshit Maharaj, being such a great devotee, he was not supposed to get agitated. That really is not the character of a pure devotee. A pure devotee like Maharaj Parikshit do not become extremely fatigued or hungry or thirsty, because a devotee of the Lord doesn't become perturbed by such bodily demands. We have seen in Ambarish Maharaj, he wouldn't even touch a morsel of grain before he could feed Durvasa Muni. And Durvasa Muni was, running around, trying to be saved from Sudarshan Chakra, who was chasing the Ambarish Muni because Durvasa Muni had insulted a pure devotee in Ambarish Maharaj. But Ambarish Maharaj waited and waited, and despite the fact that he was fasting, he further waited for Durvasa Muni to come back, and he waited for such a long time. So a pure devotee doesn't feel the hunger and fatigue, because their existence is independent of their body, of the material, the gross body. They are in their pure form. It's their souls that attaches them to Krishna directly. So you wonder why this happened to Parikshit Maharaj. Why did he become so angry? First of all, so hungry, so thirsty after the whole day. And then he goes to the hermitage of the Rishi, and he wasn't particularly happy that he wasn't welcomed properly by the Rishi. So Prabhupada in one of his lectures, and in some of his lectures actually, he advises what the right thing to do is should one become agitated in this age of Kali. And this is an advice he gives through the example of Parikshit Maharaj, in order for things not to escalate into something bad. Prabhupada advises that, in order to handle problems or adversities in situations, if the mind gets agitated or if the body gets agitated, be peaceful first. Don't get agitated. Okay, and see the presence of Krishna in everything. And that's what Prabhupada keeps telling us. See the presence of Krishna even in the adverse situations. And then he says that, see that it is the mercy of Krishna, and in this form of some kind of reversal. If an unfortunate situation comes to us, see that not just as the presence of Krishna in that situation, but also the mercy of Krishna. And because of the mercy of Krishna, it has come in the form of a reversal. And that is only for the devotees, because a normal person would see that as an unfortunate situation. But for a devotee would understand Krishna's hand in it. It might have been some of his prarabdha, karma from before, and Krishna has actually minimized it. It could be because Krishna wants, like Parikshit Maharaj, and like it says in the purport, Krishna wanted to minimize a pure devotee from living in this prison house of the material existence, and Krishna wanted him back quickly. And that is the reason facilitated a situation where it apparently to a non-devotee it might seem it might be a curse, but to Parikshit Maharaj was he saw that as a blessing from Krishna, and not just a blessing, but it was the will of the Lord. And that is the reason, despite being a pure devotee who was perfectly capable of reversing the curse, he did not do that. He chose to do what the Lord wished, or the Lord willed. Okay. Now what the purport further says is that if the Lord wishes, such awkward situations and such uneasy conditions and situations can be created even for the pure devotees, just to create a situation favorable for the devotees' renunciation of worldly activities. So if we look into this phrase, Krishna creates situations that are not just adverse, but that are favorable for the pure devotee to renounce his worldly affairs. So if we look into Maharaj Parikshit, so because he was cursed, he was able to give up all his worldly affairs immediately, because he knew that he only had a few days to live. And in these few days, rather than engaging in his worldly affairs, which is to, engage in the duties of a king or as a family man, he'd rather take up that time in practicing, in serving the Lord better and more directly. So whereas earlier we talked about how a pure devotee sees Krishna in everything and never neglects his worldly duties, because Krishna doesn't want us to leave our worldly duties. He wants us to do it perfectly well, but keeping him at the center of everything. So whereas we saw Maharaj Parikshit doing that perfectly well and would have continued to do that, but this curse, this all of a sudden curse, it kind of propelled him to leave his worldly affairs immediately, and then just leave everything and then come to Sita Goswami and hear the Bhagavatam from him. So that is another point that is brought out in this purport, that Krishna, it's a kind of a bit of a turn around. Whereas Krishna never really asked devotees to give up everything. But at the same time, when Krishna really wants to bring a pure devotee back to him soon for help that pure devotee escape the material bondage immediately, Krishna can create a situation which allows the devotee to immediately give up all his worldly affairs in a second, okay, without even thinking. Now, Parikshit Maharaj got 7 days. There are devotees who might just be, it could be just immediate. We hear about one of Prabhupada's devotees who left the material world very, very suddenly in a car accident. And we often wonder that whether that wasn't because he was a pure devotee, that might have been the will of the Lord. Maybe the pure soul was wanted back to God, the Krishna wanted to take him back to Godhead in his abode. Or maybe he wanted the soul's association in some other universe, engaging in some of his other pastimes. So we never know why Krishna wants a pure devotee to suddenly return to him or suddenly do something. But when Krishna wants it or desires it or wills it, he makes or he ensures that such an awkward situation happens. And awkward or unfavorable or not really nice in the eyes of a non-devotee who does not understand as to why that has happened, but in the eyes of a pure devotee, it is actually the mercy of the Lord, and that is the reason they accept it. And one has to become 100% detached from worldly activities to be able to go back to Godhead. Even if that 1% attachment remains with worldly activities, the souls will not be able to go back to Godhead. So when such things do happen, such unfortunate things in the eyes of the world do happen, the devotees are given a situation where they have to leave their worldly affairs 100%. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to go back to Godhead. And that is what Maharaj Parikshit did as well. He just left everything and came to Sita Goswami. Now, Krishna puts these, Krishna is very, very merciful, as we know, and he's very kind, as we talk about all the time, and as we started today's verse with. And the verse also says that had it not been for Maharaj Parikshit in this situation, in this illusory situation that, he was fatigued and he was being insulted by the sage, he wouldn't have been cursed and we wouldn't have got Srimad Bhagavatam. And exactly the same happened to his grandfather, Arjuna, who, despite being a pure devotee, Krishna temporarily put him under the illusion as a mercy to him, and not just a mercy to Arjuna, but as a mercy to the entire universe, all of us, because we wouldn't have got the Bhagavad Gita had Arjuna not been temporarily fallen under the control of illusion and forgotten his true dharma. And because he forgot his true dharma temporarily, he wanted to run away from the battlefield. He wanted to get away from his prescribed duties or duties around dharma or what Krishna wanted. And Krishna had to remind him. So we cannot really just think that great devotees and paramahamsas or pure devotees automatically just suddenly all of a sudden come under illusion. No, it is the will of the Lord. The Lord plans it and plans it in such a way. It's twofold. One, to bring to take the devotees back to Godhead, as it very quickly, as is the case of Maharaj Parikshit or some of the other devotees we see who leave their material body all of a sudden, very, very suddenly, despite the fact that they are perfectly in their good health. That is the will of the Lord. And secondly, the Lord wills it because it is only through the pure devotees that the Lord's words can be propagated. The Lord makes the pure devotees his mediums. He cannot make any random person a medium. He has to have a pure devotee to become his medium. So we know that the Lord is impartial. The Lord is never partial, and as the Bhagavad Gita says, ya yatamam prapadyante tam sataiva bhajami aham, in Bhagavad Gita 4.11. So as one responds to Krishna, as one surrenders to Krishna, Krishna responds to them in that way. So if one surrenders to Krishna in the mode of ignorance and wants to become an enemy of Krishna, like Shishupal or Hiranyakashipu or others, Krishna would treat them as an enemy, would respond to them as an enemy, because that is how they wanted to be with Krishna. If it is in a mode of passion and where devotees are wanting something from Krishna in return, Krishna would respond to them in that way. If it's in just a mode of goodness, just basic goodness, and people don't complain, they accept everything, but at the same time they're also aware that this is something that Krishna's done, and maybe something better can happen. So even Krishna is not partial, but if someone is in the mode of goodness, Krishna sees to it that that devotee is protected in the way that, because that devotee is being nice to him, so Krishna is favorable to him. because the devotee is favorable, because the devotee loves Krishna, Krishna loves him back. And for a pure devotee, a pure bhakta, who wants nothing in return. So, even a devotee in goodness, they might want something from Krishna in return. They are great devotees. They love Krishna, but maybe they want something for for themselves. And Krishna responds to them as much as they surrender to him. But a pure bhakta does not want anything from Krishna. A pure bhakta gives everything and does everything for Krishna, and whatever situation a pure bhakta is put in, they take that as a mercy of Krishna, and that is said in this purport over and over again. I mean, in Kali Yuga, we are bombarded with reversals all the time. But Maharaj Parikshit teaches us that this is nothing but favorable mercies of Krishna. And the main point to take from this is that the advancement of a devotee, the true advancement of a devotee, it depends on how he perceives this situation, whether favorably or not favorably. If it's a pure devotee and if it's an advanced devotee, that devotee would never ever think of this situation as unfavorable. So one can gauge how advanced one is in pure devotion by seeing the reaction of that devotee in responding to a situation which is not perfect. And Krishna, because he's impartial, he's always wanting Mahabhagavats and Paramahamsas like Parikshit Maharaj to come to him, and he's so kind, as we see in the purport. He's so kind and so merciful that his abode is ever expanding when it comes to bringing back such pure devotees back to Godhead. It's like the pushpak rat, as if you know, the chariot that was given to Lord Rama. And that could expand. I mean, initially after the Battle of Lanka, initially it was thought that only maybe Hanuman would return to Ayodhya with Lord Ram, but Mother Sita said, no, the whole Vanar army, they need to come, and the pushback rat or the chariot, it just expanded. So Krishna's mercy is like that. It is ever expanding. So when we see him, being merciful towards devotees, poor devotees like Maharaj Parikshit, we can also see this ever expanding kindness and mercy of Krishna in wanting to get devotees back as soon as possible to him, and going out of his way to create situations to be able to bring back devotees back to him. And not just that, making those pure devotees mediums of giving knowledge to the wider society, so that more and more people are able to return to him. So Krishna is constantly trying to create such situations, making his pure devotees as mediums to return to him. So the last part of the purport talks about how the Lord never forgets his pure devotees, even if they are engaged in worldly affairs, as we talked about. And the devotee understands, and that is the main point, the devotee understands the signal of the Lord, and whereas others take it to be a curse or unfavorable, the devotees take it as a sign of mercy from the Lord. And the devotee is always in complete belief and faith that avashve rakshibe Krishna, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Avashya Rakshiva Krishna, or definitely Krishna will save me in all conditions. And we see the very beautiful pastime of the Malaka, or the person who made garlands. So when Krishna and Balaram left Vrindavan on their way to going to Mathura, a lot of devotees came to meet him, and they also met this garland maker, the Malaka, and he was such a pure devotee. And Krishna said, "What do you want from us, or from me?" And the only thing that the Malaka wanted was that, "Oh Krishna, just give me unwavering faith and belief in you, that under any circumstances, whether they are good or bad, just make me always remember that you are with me, and let my faith in you and my belief in you be unwavering and increase more and more." And we see the same happening to Prahlad Maharaj, in all the unfavorable situations. Prahlad Maharaj never ever left his belief in Krishna. I mean, his father was throwing him up from the mountains, and there was Krishna trying to, trying to go from one side to the other, looking at where he's going to fall so that he can catch Prahlad Maharaj. That is how much Krishna's mercy is. That is how much he loves his pure devotees. But Krishna is impartial. So Krishna loves his pure devotees more because, and only because, the pure devotees love Krishna so much. So Krishna returns it. As we surrender to Krishna, Krishna returns Krishna returns the feelings in the same way. But the pure devotees, they take this as their duty. So and you see so many other examples where we see, Shabri, the devotee, the elderly lady who waited and waited for Lord Rama to visit him, and how Lord Rama tasted when he finally visits Shabri. He tastes the food, the berries that Shabri she would bite to see if they're sweet or not, or if they're bitter. But Lord Rama took those, berries from Shabri without even thinking twice that they have already been eaten half by Shabri. And despite the fact that Lakshman said, but these, you shouldn't be taking, Lord Rama, this is not for you. Lord Rama said, this is the best thing I've ever tasted. It's the sweetest because it has the love of my pure devotee. So Shabri went through so much. She waited for such a long time. Never once did she think that, oh, it's another day and I have to wait for Lord Ram again. She became, from a young age, she became elderly, but never once did she think of that as an unfavorable situation. We see Madhavendra Puri and his Gopal, his Bal Gopal, his deity, said, I'm feeling very hot, so go and get some chandan from me. And Madhavendra Puri was old, he was elderly, but never did he think, oh, I can send somebody else to get the chandan. I can just sit over here and I can just serve Gopal. Somebody else can go and get the chandan for my Gopal. No, because the Lord wanted it, he just accepted it without even questioning the Lord. And that is what Maharaj Parikshit does. He doesn't feel cursed. He doesn't question. He doesn't once say, oh God, why me? But we tend to do that. We tend to, any unfavorable situation comes to us, the first thing we do is we curse our fate, we curse everything, we blame everything, and we blame God. We say, why me, God? I've been praying to you. But the pure devotees don't do that. They never ever question the will of the Lord. We see Maharaj Chitraketu, who was such a pure devotee, and he was wrongly cursed by Mother Parvati once, because, you know, Mother Parvati mistook him because he laughed when he saw Lord Shiva and Mother Parvati sitting next to each other. He laughed, and Mother Parvati mistook that as to be a laugh in the wrong way, and she cursed him to become a demon. Not now. Chitraketu, King Chitraketu, could easily have reversed that curse, but he didn't do that. He just accepted it. He prayed to Lord Shiva and Mother Parvati, and he accepted that. And then, you know, in the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that Aham Sarvasya Prabhaha, or I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me, and the wise perfectly know this and engage in my devotional service and worship me with their hearts. And that is exactly what Maharaj Parikshit is doing. He's wise. He knows that everything emanates from the Lord. Everything comes from the Lord. So they never ever question the Lord when something happens in their life. And, you know, we even see Kunti Maharani asking the Lord to give her reversal of fortunes all the time so that she can remember him. And that would tell her that the Lord actually loves her, because, you know, the more reversals of fortune you would get, the more you would remember God, the more the Lord is remembering you too, because the Lord can never see his pure devotees in despair, or, you know, in a bad situation. That is something he has promised. He pre-told Arjun to say that clearly in Bhagavad Gita. Tell everybody that my devotees will never perish. He didn't even say that himself in Bhagavad Gita, because, you know, even if he goes wrong, even if he breaks his promise, he would never ever, he loves his devotees so much, he would never ever break the promise of a devotee. So he makes Arjuna says that, tell everybody that my devotees are always protected by me and they will never perish. And so we see when people like, when Maharajas and pure devotees like Maharaj Parikshit comes across, you know, situations which are adverse, such pure devotees, they never ever question. They just immediately leave their worldly affairs, and they go and do more service to the Lord. Once the gopis asked the flute of Krishna. The gopis went to the flute of Krishna and they said that because in the spiritual world, everything has a soul, everything is spiritual and conscious. And so the flute was conscious as well. And the gopis asked that, how is it that you are always so close to Krishna? We are so jealous of you. You know, you're always on his lips, and Krishna just plays you on his lips so much. How has that been possible? What did you do to get such great closeness to Krishna? And the flute says that, you know, once Krishna came to me and I was a tree, and Krishna said if I could, he could cut off one of my branches. Initially, I didn't really understand, but then Krishna broke off one of my branches, and he made a hollow inside, and he not only took out everything from inside and made a hollow covering, but he also made 6 holes in it. And what does that signify? What Krishna did is that he takes away, for a pure devotee, he takes away all that material dirt that we have, that is accumulated in us over the years. And not only that, he makes a hollow, he makes it back into the pure souls that we have when we do become pure devotees. But not only that, he further makes 6 holes into it. And what are the 6 holes? Those 6 holes are nothing but lust, anger, greed, envy, pride, and illusion. He takes them away. He makes a hole of them. And the flute said, when Krishna took away all of these anarthas from me, I was able to completely surrender to him, and I completely became dependent on him. And that is what the pure devotees do. So whatever situations they are in, they completely become dependent on Krishna. Be it good, be it bad, they never question. They blindly surrender to Krishna. And I mean, you know, as devotees, we keep saying when we are praying, we say, you know, Tvameva Mata, Tvameva Pita, Tvameva Bandhus Sakha Tvameva. And, you know, Mom, you're my mother, my father, my Sakha, my friend, my everything. But we say that in our prayers, but do we actually, are we actually able to do that in practice? So when we are able to do that in practice, that is when we completely surrender to Krishna. So what this verse is teaching us is that Maharaj Parikshit, he because he was able to completely surrender to Krishna, he never questioned. There are so many things that there are so many good qualities of a pure devotee. They not only are they able to, you know, give up everything, but they're able to completely surrender to Krishna and take everything that Krishna advises. They're able to take that as Krishna's will rather than questioning. And we see so many examples over the ages, whether it is, you know, Mahaprabhu advising his followers and making his followers as mediums to propagate the Sankirtan movement, and his close associates and his followers, they just, without even questioning, they accepted the will of the Lord of Mahaprabhu, and they talked about and they spread Sankirtan movement. We see Prabhupada once, he was traveling on a train and he had two of his devotees with him. One was Gurudas Prabhu and the other was Yamuna Mataji. Prabhupada was talking in Hindi. He also had a lawyer with him, and he was talking in Hindi with the lawyer. And Gurudas Prabhu or Yamuna Mataji didn't really understand Hindi. And then suddenly Prabhupada told them, he is a lawyer, he lives in Delhi. So they were traveling on a train towards, I think, where was that? They were traveling, well, I can't remember which way, but it was you know, good Mr. Gupta, and Prabhupada said, Mr. Gupta knows everything, or will be able to help you in Delhi. Just get off, and the train stops at. Oh yes, Prabhupada was probably going to Mathura, if I'm not wrong, but he said, you know, just get off at Delhi with Mr. Gupta. He'll be able to help you in how to build a temple and advise you in how to build a temple in Delhi. And you know, Gurudas Prabhu and Mother Yamuna, they had never seen Mr. Gupta before. They didn't even understand his language, what he was talking about to Prabhupada, but they believed. They just took Prabhupada's word as the last word. They got off the train with Mr. Gupta in Delhi, and then we know how, you know, what happened after that. So we see pure devotees, they never question whether it's their gurus, because they take their gurus as representatives of the Lord, and pure devotees never ever question that. So we see how there are so many examples of pure devotees throughout the ages who have just accepted the will of the Lord, like Maharaj Parikshit, never questioning, but thinking that this is actually for not just my benefit, but becoming mediums to be to let something happen, as Maharaj Parikshit did. Because of him, we've got the Srimad Bhagavatam. So they ensure it is not just for their benefit, but also for the benefit of mankind in general. So this is what the verse and the translation and the purport teaches us today. We start on the journey of Parikshit Maharaj and how he took the adversity as a blessing from Krishna. So with that, I conclude my discussion here today. If there have been any mistakes, please do correct me. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you so much for this wonderful session. Are there any questions or comments on the discussion? Mataji, like you were saying about the reversals, how devotees accepted and then how they take is completely different from how we ordinary souls view the problems.
Yes.
As you were saying that we always take it that Krishna has to uh, make situations that favor us and then what we think as good for us. But when it goes opposite, we think that okay, Krishna is not favoring us.
Yes.
So devotees completely think opposite, and then whatever reversals, the so-called reversals, they accept it as Krishna's supreme will, and then they um, uh, they take it very wholeheartedly, and then they accept it. So that's
Yes.
the difference, I think, between ordinary souls and then the pure devotees of the Lord.
Yes, Prabhuji, you're absolutely right. And as Prabhupada says, that the advancement of a devotee can be gauged by how much he understands this point. If you're not an advanced devotee, he would take it literally as an unfavorable situation. But if you are advanced in your devotion, you would immediately see the hand of the Lord in it and know that this is actually for the better and something better is awaiting. I was also listening to another class by Prabhuji, a Maharaj actually, and he was saying that, for some people, you would think that they are doing a lot of bad, but, they are getting away with it, whereas there are other people who are devotees or who are not doing anything bad and lots of bad, they are going through hardships. But that is only because of, on one hand, someone, they are wasting away their Sukritis, which was saving them from all their bad karmas. And once the Sukriti is over, the bad karma will take over. Whereas the others, Krishna knows that even they are devotees, so let them go through a bit of, hardships now, because I'm with them and they have the belief. And that is Krishna's belief in us, that his devotees believe in him. And Krishna knows that the devotees will be able to take that, and he minimizes the effect. And so that is how it's a give and take belief that we need to have on Krishna.
Yes, thank you, Mataji. And also, I think devotees go to any extent to accept any discomfort to their personal comforts. So they don't consider personal comfort as important, and then they feel that the activity, what they do, devotional activity, is the prime importance, and then that is their goal. So whatever reversals they get, so they don't consider that as great calamity, or yeah.
I mean, we can see that in the example of Prabhupada. I mean, what hardships he went through for us, on that cargo ship. And even after reaching America, even after returning to India, so much hardships he went through, physically, financially, psychologically, so many things. But the only thing he had is the belief in Krishna, that Krishna is with him, and whatever is happening is his will. And I think that is what we get from today's verse as well. Otherwise, why would Maharaj Parikshit all of a sudden become hungry and fatigued? That is not the sign of a pure devotee. Why would Arjuna, who knows everything, all of a sudden become illusion, or rather disillusioned with life? So yeah.
Thank you, Mataji. If there are no other questions or comments, can I request Prasanappa Prabhu to close the session? Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna,
Hare
then
Krishna.
what pronounced to all the
Dandavat.
assembled devotees. Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you for the wonderful class. We see what a wonderful personality Maharaj Parikshit is. Thanks for the recap. We get to learn a lot and get to be inspired by his acts, how we should act as devotees, and how we should let the Lord use us also, because even in minor ways, to be examples to ourselves, to learn from our own actions, and also to learn from others' actions, as well as teach others like you're teaching us today. So thanks a lot, Mataji. I will request the assembled devotees to please unmute and chant the Hare Krishna mantra for the glorification of her grace, Panchali Kar Mataji. Please let's join. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Srila Prabhupada ki,
Jai.
Jai,
Her Grace Panchali Kar Mataji ki,
Jai,
Iskana Eldoret ki.
Jai.
Jai.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhuji. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to serve Srimad Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, everyone.